What's up, everybody? This is Roberto Lorenzo Ferguson, aka Robert Ferguson. I am your nutritionist. I'm a guy who shares because I care. And you know what? I really care about what we're going to talk about today. We are going to bring clarity to the negatives of intermittent fasting. If you know anyone who is doing intermittent fasting, you know anyone who's thinking about doing intermittent fasting, maybe you're thinking about intermittent fasting. Maybe you're doing it and for all you know, it's working. Well, this is a good one for you today because it is not all that you think it is. When some things are too good to be true, well, they're probably too good to be true. So, but one of the cool parts about our time today is that you're going to have more nutrition knowledge, more health knowledge, because in order for you to truly get and understand the negatives of intermittent fasting, there are some things that you would benefit from being fully aware of. And so there's going to be a little bit of an educational curve. But once I believe you have all of the information that we're going to share today, then that's up to you. I mean, to each his own. I'm not against, people can do whatever they want. Whatever they want. And joining me is my partner in crime, aka Hammer Girl. I'm gonna bring her to the stage, the one and only. Hope you gotta unmic. There she goes. The hammer girl, Lisa Marie, everybody.
Hey, Robert, how are you?
I am, I know we've talked about this subject,
Mm-hmm.
and I know it was last minute. I said, "Hey, Lisa, let's talk about this." And you're like, "Well, we've talked about it, and we talk about it here and there, and when we go over to Telegram, we answer questions about it." But it's one of those things, Lisa, where it just keeps coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And if it keeps coming up, obviously not everybody can hear us talking about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's time to talk about it. And I do have a little bit of a different spin. And you're great because I didn't go over any of this with you, and you're just impromptu going with it.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to bring in one of the top nutrition scientists who's made a career. He's in his 70s. He's been a professor. He's been a mentor and coach for so many people in the health and weight loss space. He knows nutrition like extremely well, especially the work he's done around skeletal muscle and protein. He has, I think, a little over 120 peer-reviewed studies. So he's been, published. I mean, he's amazing. And he sits on a whole bunch of boards, and he's a no-nonsense person. We're going to hear from him. So it's not just the perceived, Lisa Marie's opinion and Robert Ferguson's opinion, if you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good.
And then, depending on how much we cover, then we can come back and I have some additional things that I can share. But for starters, let's just welcome everybody. We got Dana Domino. I hope I said that right.
Hi, Dana.
We got Linda Jackson in the house. Whoop, whoop. We have Melissa S. in the house. Sandy's in the house. And wherever you guys are catching us, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, let us know. Say hi. We would love to hear from you and share. Share this because you actually care. And I believe inside of the next 30 minutes, most of you will know what we know. And it's kind of tough to be quiet, Lisa, when you watch someone you actually care about doing a diet that you know is setting them up for some major hardships.
Absolutely.
I mean, do you know people who have done intermittent fasting?
I do. I have family members that I don't know if they're going to be catching this, but I shared it over to my Facebook, and so I have family members that are doing intermittent fasting because I see all their posts. I have friends that um Send me pictures of their intermittent fasting, I'm not coaching them, but I'm like, and I look at like the pictures that they send me and I'm like, what are you doing?
They,
um
I mean, it's very interesting, and I want to dive in and kind of get us started, but there's a few things that I want to go over, and then we'll pause as we have Dr. Lehman kind of weigh in on this,
mhm,
and then you can pause and I can pause and we can share, but a few things for everybody to understand when you hear the term intermittent fasting, for the most part, this is all based on eating within certain periods of time during the day. Um, the most common is when a person will go 16 hours without eating, and then they will give themselves a period of time for 8 hours to eat. So, for instance, you wake up in the morning and you don't eat breakfast, and the first time you eat a meal is lunch. So that's 12 noon. And then between 12 noon and 8 p.m., you can eat whatever you want to eat, right? And then after 8, you don't eat again until 12 the next day. And some people will go longer periods of time, some people a little shorter. Some people do it because they've heard that not only can it help you with weight loss, but it can help with autophagy, which is when the cells are feeding on themselves and there's a cleansing that's taking place there. And what people don't know, most people, is that both of those claims, as far as weight loss and autophagy, is based on what took place with mice. And in order to, let's say, if a mouse doesn't eat for 16 hours, um, that's the equivalent of us going 5 to 6 hours without eating. And I know that from a biological standpoint, you can't get to autophagy inside of a day. It's like getting into ketosis. It's not going to happen. It's biologically impossible. And the same is with mice. Now, if you're going to go 5, 6 days without eating anything, okay, then you could probably reach that level and get some of the benefits with that. And when it comes to weight loss, again, it was done with mice. And when they finally did a study around weight loss with adults, and we're not talking one study, we're talking many studies. People who, and they did randomized controls. So you had one group of people who did intermittent fasting, another group that didn't. So the other group ate breakfast, lunch, dinner. Everything was the same as far as the calories that they all consumed. And there was no difference in weight loss. I believe personally, Lisa, before we dive into this, is that people love fads. They love an idea and they expect frustration and restriction
mhm,
in order to lose weight or to improve a part of their health. We are not indoctrinated to realize that it's education, is learning how to eat, is what you and I teach, and all of our coaches. We teach people how to eat. And we live in a world where people don't value that. And because they don't value that, people will continue to be uninformed. And when you're uninformed, you're more likely to fall prey to those who are misinformed. It's
mhm,
kind of like people who believe in intermittent fasting tell someone else about it, make all these claims about it, and then that person does it. Well, that person was misinformed. They share that with someone who's uninformed, and now you got a whole bunch of sheep following each other, the blind leading the blind. Does that make sense?
it makes total sense.
And I don't mean to be disrespectful to anybody, but we're speaking truth here
Mhm,
because those people don't know about the first two studies that I just talked about.
yep.
So,
I think that's that was one of like the first things that I learned from you. I think I heard you say you have the misinformed leading the uninformed, and that was one of those times that I had to kind of take a look at myself, right? Because I was promoting different shakes and things like that for weight loss, and completely misinformed I was.
mm, well, and I appreciate your humility because you're humble, but you're strong, and you are a great leader. But we're not here to kiss your butt. we're here to give people some real answers. So now, for those of you who have questions, feel free to post it. I also want to preface by saying there's different types of fastings out there, right? So I support spiritual fastings, right? So it could be your church, it could be your spiritual beliefs that you just make time to fast.
Mhm.
Um, we're not talking about that. We're talking about people who are hoping to get a certain outcome, and their outcome is a tool called intermittent fasting. Now, I've worked with churches, and I look to work with more churches because when the church is done with the spiritual fast, we're the pastor, the bishops, the apostles, whoever is the leader, where they continue to fall short and do their congregation a disservice is that they don't educate or teach them how to eat as they come out of that spiritual fast.
Mm.
That to me is an injustice. It's partly the pastors or the church is just ignorant about it. They don't value what we're talking about. But yet that's an easy correction. There's also political fasts. One of my mentors and someone I look up to, Dick Gregory, he's no longer with us, rest in peace. He was known for doing, political fasts. At one point, he lived a life where he smoked cigarettes every day. He was well over 300 pounds. And during the civil rights movement, he would do political fasts all the time. He ended up going down to about 130, 120 pounds and lived, into his 70s. And I got to know him really well. He loved what I do and what we do, which was great to have that experience with Mr. Dick Gregory. But I support that. That was a political fast.
Mhm.
But we're talking about intermittent fasting. Okay, intermittent fasting. Now, someone's already posted a question. They go, well, how do I feel about 24 to 72 hour fasting? It depends on the person. I don't
Mhm.
know what their dynamics are. The big problem, in my opinion, up front with intermittent fasting is that it's a canned approach. Everybody just follow it, not looking at everyone's individuality. Because what you're going to learn today, you guys, is that if you're doing intermittent fasting, okay, this is what the studies are clear on. If you are doing intermittent fasting and you're over the age of 40, I'm being nice because, Dr. Don, who you're going to hear, he's going to tell you 35. If you're over the age of 40 and you're doing intermittent fasting, you reduce your likelihood of surviving any type of cancer if you get it. We're going to prove that today. You increase how fast you age on the outside as well as the inside. We're going to demonstrate that today. You increase your risk of having a heart attack by 300%. We're going to go over that today. You damage your metabolism and you put yourself in a situation where you're more likely to experience mortality compared to someone who's not. You put yourself in a position where you're more likely to have osteoporosis. You put yourself in a position where you damage your metabolism and you can't even recover. And there's a whole bunch more that I can share, but we're going to get into it. And so those of you who recommend intermittent fasting, shame on you because you have not done your due diligence and you are a person of influence and you recommend intermittent fasting that does damage. That is so irresponsible for you as an individual, as a human being. Like I know of a group of people who are recommending intermittent fasting, and I just say shame on them. And it's a true demonstration of their ignorance and their lack of care for the people that they're influencing to do it. Now, if you can't tell, I'm pretty passionate about it.
I'd say you're very passionate about it.
And I would debate anybody.
Mhm.
I mean, anyone. I would debate anyone on intermittent fasting. And I'm confident because the data, I mean, we're talking, I stopped at 19 studies that you can get on PubMed. That's where I stopped, Lisa. I was exhausted. I was like, you know what? Because I wanted to show each and every one of them. I was like, I'm tired.
Mhm.
Because it was like, then I saw another one. And it was better. Then it was another one. And all of them go to what we just talked about.
Wow.
So anyway, let's get into it, right? Let's make this an educational opportunity. Before I go there, someone, they posted this question there in one of our private groups. They said, so it's good that our cells feed on themselves or bad? Well, if someone goes through autophagy and you get to that place, there are benefits to that. But I would make sure that you're working with someone who has a significant amount of experience with it. I know a lot about it. I understand it. But the average person, average medical doctor doesn't. There are benefits that come with that. And that's basically going long periods of time, Lisa, without eating. And yeah, I would actually talk to your doctor. There's so many things I would look at before you did that. And then I would go back to the person and say, what are your goals? Lisa, I think most people, they don't even know what the hell they want to accomplish here.
Yeah.
Like, why are you wanting to even do intermittent fasting? To lose weight? Why not learn how to damn eat?
Right.
God.
And it's so easy once you learn.
Yes. Okay. Well, this one other person, before we get into it, they said, I follow Dr. Mindy Peltz. I don't know who that is. And she is very convincing when it comes to intermittent. Well, tell her to reach out to me. Tell her about me. I will go on with anybody. And I've been on I've been on so many shows, like major legacy shows, TV shows, infomercials, pilots. I know I have a lot of celebrity clients. I mean, let's go. Tell her about me. I guarantee you, if she says yes, she won't do it. Once I send her and she knows my background and what I've achieved and what I've done. And if she does do it, oh man, I take my hat off. But make sure she watches all of this so she could prepare. So I'm sure she's confident, but she don't have clinical trials behind her name. I do. I have third-party controlled randomized trials that proves that our methodology is as effective as it is. I don't meet many people. I meet people who are evidence-based, but I don't meet many people that are clinically proven. So she can write all kinds of books and write whatever. And if you notice, a lot of these people who make these claims and are out there, they don't debate with people who are not already in agreement with them. I will talk to anybody. So tell her I'm game. Let's do it. I would love it. Okay, anyway. All right, well, let's meet Mr. Don Layman. And you guys can look up Don Layman. Very, very smart guy. I broke this up in segments to kind of keep us focused. Okay, so let's meet Mr. Don Layman.
So I have degrees in chemistry, biochemistry, nutritional biochemistry. I was at the University of Illinois for 31 years. My research has been sort of muscle centric. We're very interested in protein and basically metabolism in general in muscle, carbohydrate, fat, protein. But I'm particularly interested in regulation of protein turnover, both synthesis and breakdown, and how amino acids are metabolized and their various roles. So that's kind of in a nutshell. I've studied protein related to weight loss, related to muscle development, related to malnutrition, related to diabetes metabolic syndrome. So kind of relationships of protein to muscle development, but also relative to carbohydrate balances and insulin sensitivity. So that's kind of a breadth of my work. I did some malnutrition work in Africa early. I worked with the USAID on muscle development and growth stunting. It sort of all fits together as where my sort of muscle-centric concepts come from.
Okay. So that's who we're talking to. As you can tell, he's done a lot. Okay. He's done a lot. Whenever you've been published in reputable medical journals by your peers, that says a lot. And so I just wanted to introduce him. And some of the things that you will hear, and there will be some words that will be new. One you're going to hear often is called protein synthesis. Basically what that means is that your body, right, your muscles, like your organs, everything that needs protein, amino acids builds up these proteins, right, are made up of amino acids. synthesis basically means like how it works, the efficiency, the efficacy of it working, meaning your muscles are able to really run with it. And so when you hear protein synthesis, that means you increased the likelihood of the body doing what we need it to do. That's protein synthesis, right? You need protein synthesis to repair your muscle. You need protein synthesis to build muscle. So protein synthesis is a good thing. So I asked the question, when it comes to nutrition, what's the first thing that comes to mind in the morning? So let's start there, because if you're fasting, and that doesn't mean, because some people could fast at a different time. Like I've had clients who want to do fasting, and I coach them on how to do fasting. But it ain't after you've been fasting. That means, so you go to bed at night, you're sleeping, you're fasting. When you wake up, the fast, there's an opportunity to break the fast. But people who are doing intermittent fasting, most of them will keep the fast going, which is where the dangers happen. Okay, so let's take a look at how he answers this next question.
The first meal after you're coming out of an overnight fast is absolutely critical. So the one meal I get people to try and start thinking about changing is, how can you get 30 to 40 to 45 grams of protein into breakfast? And once you sort of accomplish what is dinner, and you accomplish moderating breakfast, then you kind of have tackled the challenge. The rest of the day can kind of float along.
Okay, so let's stop there. So here's a guy who spends his entire life, over 50 years, studying skeletal muscle and the macronutrient protein. And as you can see, he's saying the first thing and most important thing for you to do when you wake up, and tell me if I'm hearing this wrong, Lisa, he says to eat and make it a goal to get like 30, 35, he said 40, 45 grams of protein. Did you hear that the same as me?
I did.
Okay. So now we're going to learn why he says that. But guys, you want to eat. Learn how to eat. Just because you may experience weight loss, or it may work for you, or you may say, I'm not hungry when I wake up. Well, one, if you're not hungry when you wake up, that's the first sign of a slowed metabolism. It's also a first sign of someone who is slowly beginning to decline, right? Because when a person is close to mortality, right, one of the first things you see if you ever go to a nursing home is people lose their appetite. So why add to that? It's kind of like when I was with Jack LaLanne. I remember like making a comment about people in a walker. He says, having a walker is training a person to lose their independence. I was like, huh. And then, and then he said, one of the worst things, Robert, is when I go into a gym and I see people like on a treadmill and they're hanging on. The next step is them hanging on to a walker. He goes, they should be barely touching. If they got to get their balance back, get your balance back. But you want to create independence. You want to build up the strength and the coordination and the balance where you don't need to hang on. But again, I'll go to the gym and see people hanging on, and the personal trainer says not one thing. Unbelievable. Okay, let's keep it going.
The body is constantly going through cycles that are anabolic and catabolic, particularly muscle. The liver is different.
Okay, we got to stop there. Those of you, do you guys know what anabolic and catabolic means? I want you to take a moment, because it's important, right? Because where we're going with this, you want to know what anabolic and catabolic means. Okay, catabolic, for the most part, is basically what it's a pathway where that breaks down molecules. So think of catabolic as breaking down. So if you have muscle, that muscle could break down and turn back into amino acids, right? So we eat protein. Let's say you eat a steak, or you eat fish, or you eat chicken, whatever protein you eat, that protein gets broken down in your body. It gets absorbed into your circulation as amino acids. Those amino acids then come together and create things, enzymes, hormones, skin, structure, as well as muscle. Okay, but the breakdown, you can actually break down muscle. So that's catabolic. Anabolic is the build up. That's a positive thing for the most part. It can be a negative because insulin is a hormone that is anabolic. It can cause you to gain weight, right? Build up. So catabolic is not always a good thing. It's a necessary thing, but it's not a good thing, especially if we're talking about catabolizing our muscle. Okay, so we have two new terms that we're now a little bit more familiar with, and you don't want your muscle falling prey to catabolism. Okay.
Right. The liver, in the middle of the night, the liver's making protein to regulate the body, and if it stops making protein, you die. And so where does the liver?
Oh my goodness! Did you hear that, Lisa?
Oh, had to get to my mute. I did.
He said that while you're sleeping, your liver. We talk a lot about the liver, fatty liver. I mean, the liver is a crucial organ, but the liver is using those amino acids to create, which is anabolic. So the liver is working while we're sleeping. Okay, it's important to know that. Keep that in mind, everybody.
Liver got amino acids for protein in the middle of the night. Well, it gets it from muscle. The body has no storage for amino acids, so it gets it from muscle. So that means muscle during the nighttime is catabolic. It's breaking down. And you'll go through 12 hours of fasting and it's breaking down. It's continuously breaking down muscle. You wake up in the morning, and until you have a meal that triggers protein synthesis, and we can get into leucine and mTOR and all of that, but until you have a meal that triggers muscle protein synthesis, you'll stay catabolic. And for most Americans, that first meal is dinner, where they're having 60 grams of protein. So that means and then the second part of that is after a meal, you have an anabolic period, but it only lasts about 2 hours. And we could go into reasons for that, but it lasts about 2 hours. So that means the average American spending 22 hours in a catabolic condition for muscle and 2 hours after dinner in an anabolic. We think that is the aging phenomena that we know as sarcopenia. So that's why we want to get breakfast higher, because we can now flip the switch back from being catabolic to anabolic, and we can protect your muscles all day long.
Oh, there was a lot in that, you guys. Okay, stay with us. He talked about how the liver is doing what it needs to do while you're sleeping. Then when you wake up in the morning, your body is looking for protein. It is. And just so you guys know, if you don't feed it, where do you think your body is going to get the protein? It's going to catabolize your own skeletal muscle. And someone asked a question, Lisa, well, I did intermittent fasting. I didn't lose weight. Well, one reason why you don't lose weight sometimes with intermittent fasting is because intermittent fasting was not designed for you to lose weight. It was designed for you to eat your foods in a certain period, which the majority of people would eat less and they would end up being lighter on the scale. But if you're catabolizing, breaking down your own skeletal muscle, guess what slows down? Your metabolism. You're burning fewer calories. You're doing damage to yourself because you don't have protein readily available in the morning. So you are catabolic. You wake up catabolic. You stay catabolic until your first meal. He just said that.
Wow.
And then he mentioned the word sarcopenia. If you go back to 2001 in my first weight loss book, I made some really interesting predictions, Lisa. I talked a lot about, I spent a whole chapter talking about sarcopenia. So this was 24 years. Well, I wrote the book starting in 1999. So this is 25 years ago. I said that sarcopenia is going to become one of the biggest health problems in the future. I wrote this in 1999. Sarcopenia, you guys, in Greek means vanishing flesh. And more you're going to start to hear doctors talk about sarcopenia because you're losing flesh. You're losing skeletal muscle, which is going to increase your aging, increase your risk of mortality, increase your risk of heart attack, increase your risk for hip fractures, increase your risk for osteoporosis, increase your risk to not survive cancer if you get it. I mean, what else do I need to say? The data is so clear. And people are waking up. Oh, I'm not going to eat. Hey, join the group. Everybody come join us. We're doing intermittent fasting as a family. Whoever is promoting that, shame on you. Shame on you. I mean, when I just look at people who have falls, right? So we know that 1 out of 4 people over the age of 60 have a fall. And the data says that once you have a fall, you're 50% more likely to have another fall within the next year. And if you break your hip, you are 30% more likely to die in the next year. Over 300,000 adults are having hip fractures right now, every year in the United States, just the US. And guess what? It's right behind people who are dying from heart disease. And the next generation, the people who are doing intermittent fasting and all these things where they don't take care of their skeletal muscle, we're going to see a bigger increase. I mean, this is real, people. This is real. Okay. And it's about, you're going to learn some really cool stuff here. Okay. So I asked Dr. Lehman, I said, okay, what about intermittent fasting? And here's his response.
The reason to do it is calorie control. I don't see any good reason to intermittent fast. And take it a little step farther, fasting in general, some people will say, well, that's for cleansing or all that. I don't think anyone over the age of 35 should ever fast.
What did he just say?
Oh.
Wait a minute. I'm being nice saying over 40.
Mm-hmm.
This guy with 50 years experience, 120 plus peer-reviewed studies, the guy that almost everyone goes to when it comes to like the role of protein in skeletal muscle. Did he just say that? I mean, we're in agreement because we know it, but it's like, he's like a leading authority. I mean, this guy's in all the textbooks. I mean, I know I heard him. I mean, should I back that up a little bit?
I would back it up.
All right, let me see if I can back that. I want everybody to hear that. You guys listen in to what he's saying.
The reason to do it is calorie control. I don't see any good reason to intermittent fast. And take it a little step farther, fasting in general, some people will say, well, that's for cleansing or all that. I don't think anyone over the age of 35 should ever fast. Because what we know is that if you're in your 40s, 50s, if you lose muscle mass, chances are you can't get it back. If you're in your 20s and you fast, that's pretty good because you're still pretty anabolic and you can gain it back. If you're in your 50s and you fast, just like bed rest or breaking, having surgery, chances are that's a permanent loss of muscle. You might be able to do enough resistance exercise, but chances are you can't.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
So none of that makes sense, Lisa, unless a person understands the value of their skeletal muscle.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at the questions. I want your thoughts because what he just shared said everything. And there are still people who will do intermittent fasting, even though we can share all the literature. And the reason why they will do it from a psychological standpoint is because they don't want to eat crow. They don't have the humility to go to the people they encourage to do it and tell them the truth. Mm-hmm. And they will rather just play it out.
It's horrible. we always talk about skeletal muscle, right? I mean, that's usually when people tell me, "Oh, I've lost so much weight." It's like, well, what kind of weight did you lose, right? Because I'm always thinking about that skeletal muscle and how important that is. And he just said it too, like it's so hard, if not impossible to gain that back, especially after 50. And you have a lot of people I know that I see in that 45 to 50 something year age group doing this intermittent fasting right now.
Oh, it's crazy. I mean, like, I get lost sometimes. So anyway, let's keep it moving because I have more I want to share, and I don't want to. I want us to hear everything that Dr. Don has to say. How do you define?
I'm 73. My calorie needs are down, even though I exercise almost daily. It's just a way for me to balance my meals relative to my calorie needs. I think that's fine. First meal of the day, whenever it happens, make it high protein. Last meal of the day, make it high protein. In between, kind of what's your target? What's your calorie target? What's your protein target? Fill it in.
Okay. Any questions come to mind with that? Because, we're going to get into the amount of protein that people want to eat. Anyone have any questions about why you don't want to do intermittent fasting? And I can share with you right now. I have a lot of friends who are fitness gurus. They look amazing. They have big followings, right? And they promote intermittent fasting. And one time I was with a good amount of them, and we were all having a good time eating breakfast. And I said, I know why you guys promote intermittent fasting. And everybody got quiet. Yeah, Robert, what? And to preface you guys, just so you know, when I'm around them, they've been around me long enough and know me well enough. We can all be very open. They're all experts in their own space, or at least they have big followings. And so I looked at all of them and I said, because you guys don't know how to eat. And guess what? They were silent like mice, like quiet, because they don't know how to eat. I know they don't know. They don't know nutrition. Now, they know nutrition when they're around their friends and when they do posts on Instagram, but when they're in front of me, they're all silent like a mouse. And I could call names, but I'm not here to throw anybody under the bus. But trust me, these people are really popular. Some of them are big time celebrities, but when they're with me, it's a truth circle. And in the truth circle, they don't talk about nutrition. And if they do, it's more when they ask me a question about it. Because they promote lies all the time. It's all about their brand. It's all about what helps them. They're not going to go out of their way and tell people about the truth. They're not going to say, "Hey, call Lisa. Lisa, she can help when it comes to your nutrition." Oh no, call my friend Robert Ferguson. Call him. They're not going to do that. Because they're thinking about themselves. They're not thinking about you guys. So as the lady mentioned, this Dr. Mindy lady, Dr. Mindy ain't thinking about anybody but her agenda. And I'm not being mean. That's just the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Because Dr. Mindy and Dr. Don, who you just heard from, they totally would disagree. So Dr. Mindy's not going to have Dr. Don on her podcast.
Right.
It would compromise her book sales. It would compromise everything that she's pushing. That's the truth. So anyway, let's get to the amount of protein. We're almost there, you guys. And then we're going to Telegram. We're almost there. Thoughts on large amounts of protein?
Okay, so again, two different effects. One is muscle, which is what we're talking about, and the other is whole body. So let's take the whole body concept. If I have 200 grams, if my muscle target, as I mentioned earlier, is like 160 grams per day, if I go to 200, I probably won't have any bigger muscles. But if I go to 200, I will have a bigger liver, kidney, and GI tract. So your lean body mass might get higher, but it really didn't help your muscles. So diminishing returns definitely for muscle, but not so much for organs. Okay. For muscle, the minimum level people hear is 30 grams. Where did that come from? Well, what we know is that the trigger after that overnight fast is an amino acid called leucine, which triggers a process there's a master control switch called mTOR that triggers what we call the initiation phase of protein synthesis. So when we're sleeping at night, your muscle protein synthesis is running at kind of a basal level, but it's kind of turned down. You're still making enzymes, but you're not making any structural proteins to speak of. And so what we want to do is get back. And so when we have enough leucine at a meal, we turn on that mechanism, okay, the mTOR mechanism. What we know is that levels of leucine below 2 grams at a meal won't turn it on, and levels above 2.5 grams will turn it on. And that's about as clear as we know. Okay, so 2.5 grams, the average American gets about 65% of their protein from animal-based proteins, about 35 from plant-based proteins. So if you use that says that the leucine content of foods would be about 8%, 30 grams, 8%, 2.5. That's where that number comes from. So we developed that. We know that the leucine trigger probably isn't maxed at that point, and it probably maxes at maybe 3.5. But as you pointed out, it's diminishing returns. So we get a very sharp rise from nothing to activated at 2.5, and then it begins to slowly plateau out. We think the range of protein for most people goes from about 25 to 65. Less than 25, you probably get no muscle effect. You'll get a liver effect. Liver will be fine, but you will get no muscle effect. And it probably maxes out 60 grams, maybe 65. Anything above that, again, you might get a liver effect, but you won't get a muscle effect.
Okay, so let's make that. I'm going to make that all make more sense. I mean, you notice how excited he gets when he talks about leucine and mTOR. Okay, so you guys, leucine is a certain amino acid. So you have amino acids that make up protein. And leucine, what he discovered in his studies and what is believed all over the world now, this is fully understood, is that when you consume protein, you want quality protein. And in that quality protein, you will have a certain amount of leucine. Now, leucine is in eggs. There's a good amount. Steak, pork chops, tuna, chicken, even firm tofu, canned navy beans, skim milk, squash, pumpkin seeds. And what we teach is when you make a fat-burning meal, you're pretty likely to get an adequate amount of leucine. And it's that amino acid that turns on this switch that he referred to as mTOR. And that, if you remember earlier, I said protein synthesis is what we're going for. That turns on our protein synthesis. And that's where you want to be. You don't need to know and remember all the things I'm sharing with you. But when you make a balanced meal, which is what we teach, I teach it as a coach. Lisa teaches it as a coach. We have other coaches. It's the Diet-Free Life methodology, which is always blows my mind, Lisa, when I meet someone and, you know, like I had a client today I was talking to, and intermittent fasting came up because I was telling him and his wife what we're doing today. And they're like, they're going to listen in. And then the wife made a comment that her husband, who I'm coaching, was talking to someone and showed interest in intermittent fasting. And I was like, dude, you're getting good results right now. Everything is going well right now. Why are you entertaining intermittent fasting? Are you okay? Are you mentally okay? I mean, but it's that whole thing of people will, experience success, but yet they keep looking.
Mm.
Maybe that's the problem with people getting married these days. Like you get married and it's like you just start look. As soon as you get married, you start looking.
Yeah. Well, because I think it's like everywhere. I mean, even on my feed, right? Because even like if I'm sharing even like a picture, like I see like food, the AI will just show me every other kind of diet that's out there. Like I get ads for like Weight Watchers and this, you know, and it's because it starts to show you more of those things. And you know, like somebody mentioned earlier too, going back to that other doctor, Dr. Mindy, I think it was, right? Like how confused they are. People are so confused because there's so much different, you know, there's a lot of misinformation out there, and there's just a lot of information out there in general.
Yes. Well, and this is where, like I'm gonna use Linda because Linda's there. Linda, when you have a personal experience, right? And you should use Linda in talks when you talk to clients. You know, same as other people that you've witnessed, right? That have lost a significant, like Debbie. Look at Debbie. She's went from 253 to 140 something. Linda went from 249 to 129. And they're both in their 60s. They have an experience of the methodology where they ate bread, they ate breakfast, they're eating regular food. That's because they are informed. Guys, those of you who aren't our clients, that's what you're missing. You're missing education. And you keep jumping from this to that. It's like, get informed. And then the people who continue to be our clients after they're informed, that's because they value accountability. They value staying informed. So education and being informed is really what we're all about. And everyone else is just, they don't want to be informed. And some people are like, shit, I didn't know that. And you guys are you're getting it. Tonight is the night. Anyway, someone asked a question that says, is he saying we need 25 to 65 grams per meal? No, he's not saying that. What he's saying is, depending on the quality in your situation, make it a goal to, when you wake up in the morning, if you want to turn on that switch, right, then you want to make it a goal to consume at least 30 grams of protein. Make it a goal to get 30 grams of protein. If you get a little bit more, that's okay, because your body will have access to all of those proteins for the rest of the day. If you go all morning without eating, then your body is catabolic. That is biologically, scientifically proven. So if you're catabolic, meaning you're breaking down you're inclined to break down your own skeletal muscle for your liver to get the amino acids in your body to do what it needs, you can block that by eating. So why would someone do intermittent fast? If you're going to do intermittent fasting, okay, wake up, eat breakfast, and then shit, don't eat again until if you just feel like you need 12 hours of not eating, get up early, eat breakfast at 6, and then go 12 hours, 14 hours. If you can make it to 8 o'clock, go that long without eating, without eating again. You know what I mean? It's like, but don't avoid food first thing in the morning. What a blessing that is to be able to eat.
And that was, and I had never heard that, Robert, like, you know, how he broke that down that way, and you know why it's so important to have that protein in the morning.
It is critical.
Yeah.
Like critical. I mean, bodybuilders for years would wake up in the middle of the night. They would set their alarm so they wake up and then they have a little bit of protein and go back to bed.
Mm-hmm.
Because I always wanted to have amino acids available for repairing muscle, helping with the growth and build of muscle. The last thing you want to do is not eat.
Yeah.
That's like the poor man's, hey, all right, I don't know what to tell you what to do. Just don't eat in the morning. Like that's it's like, instead of let me teach you how to damn eat. Okay.
Right.
Anyway, let's pick back up on a word of quality. We're almost done, you guys, and then we're going to Telegram.
In whey protein, leucine is about 12%. So 23 grams of whey protein isolate will trigger it. Where if it's soy protein isolate, it's about 7.8%. So now you need 33 or 34 grams. So all proteins aren't equal. All animal proteins have higher leucine than all plant proteins. So again, the thing I always talk with vegetarians is that it's perfectly fine, but you have to realize you will always need more total protein, and that means more total calories to be equal. And the problem is most vegetarians go down in both. The average vegetarian intake in the US is in the 60s. So it's basically low quantity and low quality. And that you can get by with when you're 30, but when you're 60, you can't get by with that.
All right. That was the last clip I'm going to play with my man. So you guys, intermittent fasting is not your friend. I could show you the studies where when you lose weight, let's say you do intermittent fasting and you lose weight. This study came out a year ago, January. It came out January 2023. And what the study demonstrated is that if 8% or more of your weight loss comes from skeletal muscle, you increase your risk of heart attack by 300%.
No.
So that means body composition is important.
Mm-hmm.
When a person goes on the weight loss drugs like Wegovy, Ozempic, Zepbound, the majority of the weight they're losing is coming from skeletal muscle.
Yep.
So all that we're talking about is how you lower the population. And you're going to see it. You're going to see more and more people diagnosed with cancer. You're going to see more and more people. You're going to see the numbers increase big time when it comes to hip fractures. And a lot of it is because of these drugs people are taking and these fasts like intermittent fasting that people get into and they promote it and get other people to do it. And those people are so uninformed. They don't know. They just get caught up in the excitement that they could probably lose weight.
Yeah.
So anyway, we went longer than normal. Maybe we can jump over to Telegram for about 30 minutes and spend less time there since we spent more time here.
Sounds good.
So what are your thoughts? I mean, that was a lot of information.
That was a lot. Yeah, it was. That was a lot of information. I want to watch that again. I want to watch that whole interview you did with him, Robert. But I learned a lot myself in this, and I thought that was, I thought that was very interesting. There was a lot of good information, even at the very end too. That could be a whole another discussion for another day.
Amen.
But yeah, that's a really good interview, Robert.
Well, thank you. Well, there's a lady by the name of Teresa Fuller from LinkedIn. And thank you, Teresa, for posting. She says, so glad to hear someone speak out of it on this. Another fad with little scientific basis. Thank you. Because there is no science. They don't have science.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that I will share right now, and I don't know who this person is that posted this, who talked about Dr. Mindy Peltz.
Mm-hmm.
And this is no disrespect as a human being. I don't know this woman. However, as I mentioned, she can't debate the facts that we're sharing. She doesn't have 50 years of experience. She ain't published peer-reviewed 120 plus times.
Mm-hmm.
She ain't done that. She saw an opportunity. She started pushing something. And once you buy into something, you guys, like you make that the thing that you're pushing, like some people out there pushing intermittent fasting, they don't usually change the way they think. They don't pull back. They don't say, hey, I made a mistake. They just keep it going because they don't want to play with their money.
Right. Yep. I know all about that one. Right.
Yep.
And it's like even like that, like, Dr. Mindy, it could be like Dr. Dr. whoever. I mean, I know from experience, I know, a lot of them that are there's a lot that promote the intermittent fasting, or intermittent fasting with some supplements or,
Oh, of
uh,
course. There's got to be a supplement somewhere.
right? Or and the supplement so that you don't lose the muscle mass, right?
Oh my
But
God.
yeah, I don't know how that works, but
I mean, these people should go to. I mean, they should
it's
go to jail.
horrible, and I feel so horrible for all of those people because they are going to somebody, because they have doctor in front of their name and they do not know about nutrition. They're, you know, um, it's just sad. It was really sad to see people falling for that are looking for help, and some of these doctors are very misinformed and selling a product, unfortunately.
And you know what's cool? Well, I don't know if this is cool, but based on what you said, I look forward to you having moments with me where we're in the room and there's some doctor or some nutritionist or some influencer that's promoting some of these crazy things like
Oh,
intermittent fasting.
it gets me going.
I mean, you wait till you see me like when I'm in front of these doctors because my goal, I want them to bow. I want them to take a knee. Almost like I'm gonna chop their head off because of what they've done um, to people.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a big responsibility that you and I have when you're helping people with nutrition and their health. I take that really seriously.
me too.
And to watch people and we lead with our emotions and we lead with the fact that we're wanting to do the right thing. Whereas some people, the right thing is how many more books can I sell? How
Right.
many more supplements can I sell?
Hmm.
And I don't dig that culture.
No, me neither.
All right. Well, all right, you guys. So I'm going to pass it over to Lisa Marie. Thank you for listening in. And if you're live and catching us, every Tuesday we go over to Telegram after we share. We usually keep it pretty tight, but this is a big topic, and so we're covering it again. We wanted to share more information, but we're going to go over for 30 minutes to Telegram. The link is provided, and Lisa will tell you what to do when you get there.
Yeah, so if you're new to Telegram, you're going to click that link and you're going to sign up. Once you sign up, you'll be on the Diet Free Life Telegram channel. And if you look at the top, once you join that channel, if you look up at the top right-hand corner of your screen, whether you're on your phone or your computer, you'll see a join button, and it's a voice chat. You can have your mic muted. There's no video. It's just a voice chat, and it's just a way for us to have the conversation back and forth. So if you have a question, you can open up your mic, ask a question, and we can just have a nice conversation.
All
So I
right.
hope we'll see you there.
All right. Well, I'm on my way, Lisa.
All right, I'll go get it started.
All right, you guys, come on over and we'll answer some additional questions and have an open conversation. You guys can speak up. I'd love to see you over there. Okay, so I'm going to play a little video and I'm on my way over. So see you then. Again, thank you guys for being here. We appreciate you. Until the next one.
Bye-bye.